Welcome, my very rich friends. So good to see you here tonight. We are talking about the happy day tonight. And in A Course in Miracles, in chapter 30, it talks about how to get to your happy day. And sometimes it feels like it's really hard to get to your happy day. And of course, that would mean your happy week, your happy month, your happy life. So it's just taking that one instance. And of course, we can apply that universally. But what it teaches us is that there's a couple of steps, and you can ask yourself, are you doing these things? And it's not about your effort and your labor. But when we have already decided against ourselves on some level, maybe we're just doing it inadvertently. We don't mean to, but maybe we're laying awake at night and thinking something isn't going to go well, or it hasn't been going well, and we can't sleep. And so we don't realize it, but we are scripting a negative ending to whatever our story is. And A Course in Miracles says this. It says it's easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. And that's hard, isn't it? When you're feeling worried, scared, anxious, how do you prevent unhappiness from entering at all? I would just say, give it everything you've got. It's important. It's really important. Talk to a happy friend, put on happy music, watch a happy movie, go for a happy walk, do anything you can other than dwell and swim in the fear. Back in the days when I had just started A Course in Miracles, I didn't know those principles. And I would say that my worries and my anxiety and my fears, they won. I lost. I lost a lot. And I didn't know how to do these things. So I hope that you will really hear this message tonight, because it really works and it really helps. And you might keep telling yourself, I can't get to a happy thought, or I can't do this. You better start telling yourself you can, because you have a perfect guide in the Holy Spirit. There's that bridge of consciousness straight from God. The moment we thought we got lost, the moment we got scared, the moment we thought we were separated from God, He gave us the Holy Spirit, the teacher of peace, the teacher of truth, to guide us back. So, really, we have this hand to hold in our being. You hold that hand and let it guide you, let it teach you about happiness. It could be that you think, well, I don't know how to be happy. Maybe I've never been happy. I've never had a reason to be happy. Well, then you have to pray about that too. You have to say, hey, God, I don't know how to be happy. Will you teach me about that? I have found that whenever I've asked God to teach me about something, it has happened. And I can look back and think, I know how to do that now. And it's not because I was so great or such a great listener. It's because we do get answered. Some people think everything in this world is a checklist and you're trying to get somewhere or avoid something. And I do think there's merit to understanding that you cannot take fear, anxiety, anguish, worry, despair to heaven with you, the heavenly state of mind, because it's not known there. So if you have invited those things to be your companions on a daily basis, heaven is going to feel really unusual to you. And God will never force anything on you or impose anything on you. Let's say you're trying to go to that happy place, but you don't know happy at all. But I do know that you can't take those things with you. So you might as well practice now being without them. And then your guide is going to reinforce that and help you learn how to do that on a daily basis. So I love that line that says, it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. I'd like to talk tonight about what your happy day is. You can be thinking about that. And when I say happy day, I am talking about free on every level of your life, just free. Free to make a choice, free to do what you want, free to go where you please, free to visit with whom you wish, free to feel good, free to feel healthy, free to create, free to do something with someone else. If you have that kind of freedom, let's say you woke up to that tomorrow morning, how would your day be different? What would you be saying? What would you be doing? How would you be doing it? Who would you be doing it with? Really give it some thought. Let's say you wake up tomorrow morning and you're thinking, what if I'm completely free? Most of us don't know that experience because either we don't have the money or we don't have the time or we don't have the energy or we don't have support. We talk ourselves out of many things. But what if you have all those things? Because what I'd like to hear from a few of you is, what would you do with that? And you can change your mind tomorrow. This isn't I'm going to hold it to you and in a year I'm going to check on you. And, no. You can change your mind tomorrow. Just your first thought. It might be, I'd like to travel because you felt so trapped. And that's fine. I think of travel like breathing because it's not really a goal for me. It's just something you do as part of life. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant at all. I just mean the goals are a little different for me. I look for an experience that usually involves people in some way, because for me, that's really a rich, amazing experience. But for other people, it might be something else. So it might be travel just because you haven't been able to. It might be that you would just like to have some time alone in a mountain cabin overlooking a lake, and you just like to be there for a month with some good books. It could be that's your thing. Whatever your thing is, that just sounds so wonderful. I would love to hear about that. You might want to visit with your granddaughter and you haven't been able to visit with her because she's been estranged because of your daughter. And that would be the greatest thing in the world, is to visit with your granddaughter and maybe take her to a park or an amusement park for the day. It doesn't have to be so flashy. Some of the things that our heart is longing for are simple things, but they are sometimes things we feel are impossible because of certain conditions. So be thinking about your happy day, whatever that is. It might be a day of shopping. That's okay. Nobody's, giving you points down for that. If you haven't shopped in years because you couldn't, then shopping would be pretty fun, wouldn't it? So let's just think about that. And I'll be asking you in a little bit. You might want to create something or open a healing center. It doesn't have to be flashy. But what would you do first? I'd like to hear about that. As we look at this in A Course in Miracles, he says, actually, you can have anything you want. And there's two things that he asked you to do, from what I could tell in reading these couple of paragraphs. The first thing, and you can see, are you doing this? He says that he asked you to feel it as if it's already done. How much have you done that today? Whatever you would truly love, truly enjoy, how much time have you given today to feeling it as if it's done? Has anybody done that at all today? At all? Any minutes of the day? Patty, go Patty. Yes, yes. Can't wait to hear what your happy day is, because we'll hold it with you. Shar said she's done some of that. Great. But as we start to get into that habit, thank you, Penny. Awesome. But as we get into that habit of spending our time there, we are co-creating with God because we're joining with a happy vision. I feel like God only does happy. We create all the other stuff that we experience. So when we agree on happiness, we are agreeing with God's plan. And then that tends to unfold more easily. That's number one. If you're not doing that now, either set your watch or write it on your calendar, or wake up every morning, prop yourself up on those pillows, and give at least 5 minutes to imagining your most happy day, whatever it would look like or feel like. And just try to do it until you feel a little smile come to your face. And then you say, God, this would be wonderful. This is my happy day, my happy life. Will you show me how this is possible? And then step number 2 is, he says, make no decision yourself about how this will come. And you might already have some decisions. Rhonda's in real estate, right? She might already be thinking, well, I just closed a deal and maybe I can get that money next Thursday and I can do this thing. That's what we do. We think we have to earn it. We think we have to pay for it. And I would ask that you don't do that, that you lay that down and try to get out of your own way, and that you would say to yourself, I am not going to decide how this will happen. I'm just going to let it happen. I'm willing for it to happen. I'm willing to look forward to it happening, right? So those are the two things. Under the second one, where he says, make no decision yourself about how it will come, that's where he also includes that you have two advisors. And there's other parts in the course too where he talks about this. So we have the Holy Spirit, the teacher of peace, and the teacher of love, and the teacher of happiness. That's one advisor. And then we have the ego, the teacher of pain, the teacher of misery, the teacher of lack, the teacher of delay, and that's another advisor. They're always talking to you at the same time. They are right now. They're both talking, right? And the problem is this: we can only listen to one at the same time, like only one. And the one you choose to listen to will determine the outcome you will have. It's not us deciding the outcome. We're just saying, God, we choose this happy day. We agree with you as our advisor about happiness. And then God's will is your will is God's will. And so that advisor now has a function to fulfill, and the advisor will determine the outcome and how that comes. That's why we cannot decide how it comes to us. But if we decide to go into worry and fear and thinking about the worst possible thing or even a bad outcome, that's okay. We're just focused on an illusion in truth. But the problem is we're paying attention to the guide that we have made in our mind, and that's going to block your listening to the guide that loves you. And it's going to feel like delay. Fear causes delay. So the more fear you put into something, the more it drags out, and the more the ego uses it as a weapon to just drag you behind the cart, right? As you bump along the way. So I know it's tough because your eyes are looking at something that looks very scary, maybe. Maybe it looks absolute, like there's no other way to see it. But you could just pause and say, God is telling me that this is not what he created for me. This is not it. He's saying that I actually put that there, that I am the dreamer of my dream, and I'm looking at the story I made up, and I need to forgive myself. But I also need to understand my role is that I am the projector. And that's why it's so hard to see it differently, because just think of this. If everywhere you go, you're looking at the projection of your own thoughts, of course you believe them. They're already your thoughts. So when you see those thoughts in front of you, of course you're going to be tempted to use what you see to validate what you believe, right? There it is. You're looking at it. If you believe that you are not safe, and then someone comes up and robs you, it sure looks like you're not safe, right? And you might say to yourself, I knew this wasn't a good street. I knew I shouldn't walk down here. I know I'm not safe. I don't know what I was thinking. So it would be very tempting to use what I see in that robbery to corroborate what I used to believe. And around we go. Because what I just did as the dreamer of my dream is I validated what I'm looking at, which I call it squirting the ketchup bottle. So it's like I gave it my emotions, my fear, my worry, my anguish. I went, whoosh, and what happens is the ketchup goes flying and it will land on the timeline in front of you again. That's a problem. It's okay because you still have a perfect guide with you at all times, but you're going to see it again. Doesn't mean the same person or the same scenario, but it could be that, the next time you go to the checkout line at the grocery store, somebody took your wallet out of your purse. You're like, wait, I just had that a minute ago. That must have been that person I bumped into. And then you're very likely to use that experience to revalidate. I know I'm not safe. I know other people are dangerous. I don't know what I was thinking walking around with my purse hanging open. We don't realize that we are walking projectors and we get to be right about the movie that we see. So what do? Well, first of all, when we're looking at something in front of us, we're always looking at our past thoughts manifest in front of us. So there's this interval called now that we can choose again, but we have to hold that. It can't be fleeting. Let's say I go for my wallet, it's missing, and I have a belief that I'm not safe and other people are dangerous and all they do is take from you. And let's say I go to my purse and I it's in my car, and oh my gosh, my wallet's not there. My temptation shoots to the top and it says, oh my gosh, I bet that person at the gas station, I bet they got in my car and they took it, you know? So instead, we have this now moment to choose again, because what do? All we're doing is experiencing an illusion that is the effects of our past belief that we're not safe. Makes sense so far? So, right now, let's say I'm sitting in my car, ready to freak out, ready to revalidate that I'm not safe and people are dangerous. And all that happens is people take from me. But then I go, well, wait a minute. I'm learning to choose again. So, God, I'm very tempted to believe that I'm not safe and other people are dangerous. That's how my life has always been. But you're telling me that's a lie and it's not what you created. So, what I'm going to do, God, is I will not use this experience to validate that old thought. I don't know what to think of it. He says you can tell yourself, I forgot what to decide. I forgot what to decide, and you'll probably laugh too, because that's kind of a funny thing to say. I forgot what to decide. So instead of deciding that you have been hit again, pause. I forgot what to decide. What you're doing is everything, because right there in that moment, you are making space for the Holy Spirit, your advisor, to get involved. The Holy Spirit has a function, and it's to heal all those old thoughts in your mind that are producing the lie, but can't get a word in edgewise because we just keep filling that space and revalidating it and filling it and revalidating. It goes out again and again and again. So we're going to pause. You might think of a white blanket in the center of your mind and you say, God, you fill in that blanket. I'm very tempted to judge that somebody did this and I've been violated, but I'm going to choose my goal of peace, peaceful outcome. I don't know how to get there because I'm very tempted to judge this, but I give this moment to you to use for your purpose. Will you decide for me about this? I call that a workaround. You see, your ego can't hold you in this fear when you're saying, God, you decide for me about this. So you always have a workaround. It's like a get out of jail free card in Monopoly. Like you always have a workaround, even when you're scared or worried or sad or sick. God, will you decide for me about this? Because I'm not up to par, right? You decide for me. We are one. Let's go with what you know, because I'm not feeling it right now. And he says he doesn't require us to feel it. He does ask us to choose it. So, right in that now moment, let's just say, I forgot what to decide. Holy Spirit, you decide for me. My goal is peace. I'm willing to forgive whoever it was that I think I was judging. I'm just going to leave this space. I ask for you to fill that space. Get quiet. He says when you ask him for help, pause and receive his help. Maybe it's a second or two. Breathe in. Receive his help. You've asked for something. It's really a great feeling to just pause and just let it come back to you. And let's just say in that quiet moment, God says, look over there. And you look down on the floorboard in the far corner of the car, and you realize that at that last stoplight, your wallet tumbled out of your handbag and it's in the far corner of your floorboard. He will show you. I've had this happen so many times. When you're doing it this way, the miracles happen and things get turned around fast. Or maybe somebody did take it at that last gas station and you're guided to go back and just check it out. And what you find is that the person put it in the trash can and God shows you right where it is. And maybe you didn't have any money in there. You had everything else. And maybe they didn't want the other things. They just checked it for cash and chucked it. And there it sits. And God's showing you exactly where it is. Watch for this. I've seen this so many times. When you are tempted to judge your situation, make room to choose again. It's not hard to do. It's just hard to remember to do, right? Because we get so caught up in what we see and it's scary and we worry. But try to remind yourself, if I will make room for God, I could actually have a miracle. He says you can ask for a miracle, that the miracle is just behind the grievance. If you will release the grievance, forgive everyone involved, let God decide for you about all of this, things can go differently. So let's say you've had a lifetime or several years or months of a lacking situation. When something is so convincing for you because of repetition, you're going to have to stand up to it more. It's just practical thinking. I wish I could say it's easier, but it's not. It's like standing up to your own tsunami of thoughts because you've been so invested in a particular thought system that says lack is real, life is hard, I always struggle, nothing good happens for me, or things get delayed or drawn out, and there's nothing I can do about it. And we've had it validated again and again and again because we think it and we see it, and we think it and we see it, and we think it and we see it, and we haven't interrupted the flow, right? So we must interrupt the flow, even if it's 5 minutes. But we first have to recognize I am the dreamer of my dream. I'm looking at the story I made up. I'm not looking at the truth. I am not looking what God created for me. That's what he says. He says there's more for me to know, but I don't know what that is because I've filled it in with this shabby, sad story that I have created for myself. So when we are thinking of our happy day and you've had a lifetime or years of a difficult situation, even if it's a relationship, maybe you've been estranged from someone that you love dearly and you've tried everything to connect with them and it's just not working. And you feel like they have written you off forever. Maybe they moved to Antarctica. You think, wow, it's over. You know, they moved away. I don't even know their address. I'll never see them again. If that's important to you to see them again, I ask that you wake up in the morning, you put those pillows behind you, and you just lean your head back. It's not hard, it's just hard to remember to do. Sit back, and I want you to imagine hugging this person, being with this person, smiling with this person, reuniting with this person, and feeling the feelings you would feel if all of that was possible, right? And then thank God for it. God, thank you for this. Thank you for bringing this to me. Thank you for showing me how this is possible because in my mind it wasn't, but you're telling me it is. I'm going to agree with you and your advisor that miracles are my right. He says you're entitled to them. And that's the Holy Spirit's function, is to provide the miracle. You might do it a few times during the day. You don't want to drive yourself nuts with it, but you have to start conceiving its possibility because God cannot ram a healing down your throat. It has to be something you want, something you believe is possible, something you feel worthy of having. You know, you'll bump into it. Let's say you put those pillows there, you lean back, you're thinking, okay, I'm there with my daughter, right, that I'm estranged from, and here comes the tears because what you just realized is that you feel guilty, let's say, because you feel that you did this and this, or maybe there was a divorce, or maybe you didn't do enough for this daughter and you feel like she has every right to be mad at you, and now you're trying to imagine being happy with her and her being forgiving of you, and it just runs head on into your guilt. It's a wonderful thing because it's bringing up the guilt. It's bringing up your decisions against the miracle, and you stay with it. And you can go to God and say, God, this is bringing up all my stuff, and will you help me with it? Will you help me clear this? Will you help me get to a place where I could imagine this happening? Just because it's happy. God does happy. He doesn't do unhappy. He does happy. You're talking to the right place when you want that happy experience. It's okay if tears come. It's okay if you run head on into your own anti thoughts, but stay with it until you pop out the other side because you will. You just keep holding on to what it would be like to hold that loved one in your arms, or whatever your way of communicating would be that would make you so happy. And God will show you how to get there. And then once that's cleared, do you realize the person out there that you've been estranged from, that person is a figure in your dream, just as I am a figure in your dream. That person as a figure in your dream is no longer being asked to play the role of the unloving, angry daughter. Right? Do you see that was a role that we had cast because we thought we were guilty? We thought we deserved punishment. We thought we didn't deserve love because we did something wrong. So the daughter has to play the role to show us that we're right. We're actually calling her to play that role. But when you sit with love and you sit with intention and not for you to create the healing, I don't want you to get confused by that. This is just so you can get in touch with happy. Do you follow me? It's not about you healing your daughter. It's not about you making your daughter do something to make you happy. It's about you no longer focusing on unhappiness and giving all of your attention to a happy, beautiful experience. God is the God of happy. So what you've just done without realizing it is you have just placed your focus on God. Right? So it all goes together. And you're calling on the advisor of happy, the God of happy, the Holy Spirit of happy, the Jesus of happy. They know all about happy. But our attention has been on unhappy and unfulfilled. When you sit and hold that for yourself, I know it may feel like you're not doing anything. You're not making something happen. You are allowing something to be given you that's already yours. He calls it the undoing of what never was. He's undoing the problem as you see it because we created a false problem that we're very invested in. And he's saying, if you'll give me your attention, if you'll put your thoughts on happiness and abundance and peace, not as a way to save yourself in the illusion, because that's what he told me is you turning. You let the illusion go for a few minutes. This is what you do in your prayer time. You're just focused on happy for a few minutes. Remember the two things? Feel it as if it's done. That's it. You don't have to decide exactly what it will look like. Maybe you'd like to have a love relationship with someone and you don't have to decide, oh, they have to be, 6'2", green eyes and blonde hair or whatever. No, you don't have to do all that. I always say God does the face, right? You don't have to assign the face. But if you were doing this, you could just imagine what it feels like to share a rainbow or to go to a movie and snuggle or, sit by a fire and have a nice loving conversation or talk about something deep and wonderful or drift off to sleep at night, sleeping on someone's shoulder. You don't have to do the face. God does the face. Don't think you can't do this. You don't have to assign all the attributes. You just need to get to that feeling. What would that feel like? And the first thing you might find is that you are freaked out by it because maybe you feel that you're not ready to be intimate or you're not ready to be with somebody or you're not ready for them to be so close to you. That's okay. We want to bring that up. And even in this group here, we can work with things like that. You could just say, I bumped right into a fear I didn't even know I had. And, you don't have to give us all the details, but you might just say in that situation, when I thought about being intimate with someone and it's been a long time and I want that, but I'm really worried about that. It just freaks me out a little bit. That's okay. Who doesn't have that if they had that situation? And then I can guide you through how to clear that out of the way because you're not going to put yourself in a state of intimacy when you have already decided you don't want that because it's too scary. With this whole abundance thing, I like to really put it into a title of freedom. There's money, there's health, there's relationship, there's wealth, there's all these things. And to me, it really isn't about having a bunch of money. That's nice, I guess, right? Money won't make you safe. Money won't make you free. God makes you safe and free. What I want to feel is free. Free is good. Free is good. Free to make a decision, free to do what I want, free to enjoy what I please. If I'm free, I'm good. Like all is well. So as you think about your happy day and try to feel it, whatever it is, it's okay to be specific. I think it's important at first that you take the things that you thought were kind of impossible and you try to imagine them as possible. So maybe there's 10 of those things, that you'd have a relationship with this person, or that you would have financial freedom to travel around the world, or that you would no longer have back pain. What would that feel like? So you've got this terrible back pain, and you're going to have to imagine, what does it feel like if I didn't have this back pain? That's tricky, but you can do it. You may not feel it, but you can try to feel it. And you could imagine the things that you could do if you didn't have the back pain, that maybe you could bend over, you could do knee bends, you could run around with the kids, you could run with the dog, you could sit down on the lawn, fold your knees underneath you, maybe things you can't do now. These are things you could just imagine doing. And God knows you're trying. You're not trying to make it happen for you. You're trying to put a place in your mind to imagine that it could happen, because he can't go through a closed door. Make sense? So this is something that we can do. It's easy. Feel it as if it's done, and then make no decision yourself about how it will come to you. And he also says that you and your advisor must first agree before it can happen. And this is on page 626 in A Course in Miracles. It says, throughout the day, at any time you think of it and have a quiet moment for reflection, tell yourself again the kind of day that you want, the feelings you would have, the things you want to happen to you, and the things you would experience. And say to yourself, if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. These two procedures, practiced well, will serve to let you be directed without fear, for opposition will not first arise and then become a problem in itself. There was a time when Terry and I were playing around with these thought forms and just having fun with it. And we had, I think, 3 boys at home, but we have 6 kids between us and lots of grandchildren. And there's always something going on, and there's always needs and a lot of things that need to take place. And there was, it was quite a ways back. I think our boys were in middle school, now they're in their 30s, but they were in middle school. And we just thought, wouldn't it be fun that during spring break, when the boys kind of go with the other parent, that's not fun in divorce, but the only advantage is that there are a couple of days where you could go do something. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we could go skiing with the kids, and then we could come back and we could go to Hawaii for like 4 days? That would be like the best week. That's what we thought. We didn't have any money to do even one part of that. So we decided to put it on the calendar. Remember, feel it as if it's done. Have fun with it. If you can't go, so what? Take it off the calendar. But put it on the calendar as if you have some level of, like a pinky finger level of faith that maybe it's possible, right? So we put it on the calendar. This was maybe October, and we were going in April, and we were already looking at reservations, and we called around as if we could go. And again, remember, make no decision yourself about how this will happen. So we didn't. And we thought, well, we don't have the money, but that's not our part. So let's go ahead and see if they're available. So we called, and we went ahead and made reservations, not looking at the price tag of where we would stay. And we picked, it's a place called The Village in Mammoth Lakes, California, a great place to go skiing. And then we picked the Iolani Hotel. It's on Oahu. I've been to all the islands so many times now. And it's just a beautiful place. And we saw them. We'd never been there before, put it on the calendar. And, we went ahead and made a reservation, and it turned out we could make a reservation, not put any money down. So that was easy. It was just easy. So we get closer to the event, and I think it was about a month before. And of course, that due date is coming up where you have to pay for everything in advance for these types of places. And we're thinking, well, it was a nice try, c'est la vie. We'll just take it off the calendar. And I'm just getting ready to call and cancel these reservations. In the meantime, we realize we actually have enough points to fly. Like that would pay for the flights for both of us. We didn't realize we had that many points. It just had added up over time. So that was cool. We thought, well, that's neat. But, It's the hotel costs that are so high. And then we ended up getting a discount at the villages that we could apply. So that was neat, but we still didn't have the funds to do all of that. And then we get a phone call from Terry's brother. It was during Katrina. That's how long ago this was. During Katrina, right after, he works for FEMA. So he went into New Orleans and he stayed there for about 7 months. And he stayed at a Marriott. And it turned out that he had a boatload of points, Marriott points. And he called us and he said, I don't go anywhere. He's like, do you guys want my points? And we're like, yeah, can we? And he said, well, I called them and they said, yes, I can train because we had a Marriott account. And then what we didn't know is the Iolani is a Marriott. And so we didn't know that. I guess it might say by Marriott in the very little fine print, but it's one of their like 5-star hotels. They just have a few. All of a sudden, we realized that he just paid for our whole stay at the Iolani. So we ended up having to pay for a little bit of the Mammoth Village, but that was it. The plane was covered, the hotel was covered, and we could do it. It was so amazing. You see that if I had to figure that out, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just make sure that Terry's brother works in New Orleans for 7 months, and then he's going to rack up a whole bunch of points. And I know he doesn't use them. And I'm just going to, just will him to give me those points. And then I'm going to find out that it actually matches the hotel that we're trying to stay at. Feel it as if it's done, plan it as if it's done. If you've got a big deadline, this is one little rule of thumb that I have used over the years. Let's say you have a big deadline next Friday and you've got to pay this or everything falls off a cliff, right? And you're thinking about Friday, so I got to do this by Friday at 3 o'clock, Friday at 3 o'clock. And that's all you're thinking about. What I love for you to do is plan something great the following week, like break the hold. Maybe it's, the following week, I'm going to go visit my cousin in Lake Tahoe, or, something that's good that you love, that's fun. Maybe you're going to go to lunch with a girlfriend, whatever it is, just plan something beyond the deadline and put your attention there and think about what you'll wear, what you'll do, what you might talk about, and how you're just so glad that whole deadline thing is just behind you and it's over and it's done with. It's a wonderful way to break the hold of your ego, focusing on that very fixated cliff life altering event. So it really helps a lot. And then most of the time you find out you are able to really plan something as if your life continues, as if good things happen even after this big event takes place. So I wanted to share those 2 steps tonight because they really, really help. You may feel like you're doing this already. If you're not seeing those results, you might look at certain things like, are you seeing everyone as having that kind of freedom? It's not that we're being judged or evaluated in a way of our judgments, but if we're seeing other people as broken, broke, dark, evil, mean, arrogant, a detriment in our life, a detriment in someone else's life. The problem is this. Now, it's not the truth, but because we have decided it's true, we're now focused not on the truth. We're focused on the illusion again. Now, even though we're trying so hard to apply those 2 steps and do everything in our favor in the way he's asking us to do, but if we are deciding against a holy child of God over here in the illusion, we are redeclaring separation all over again. It means, okay, I'm this good guy and that person, not so much, right? So we're saying they're that and we're this. So we're redeclaring separation. The problem with that, it's not like God keeps a checklist and says, oh, you're declaring separation. The problem with declaring separation and validating it by deciding that these people are a detriment in your life in some way, it means that you are convinced that illusions are real. And that means the truth is not. You can't have both. It can't go both ways. So when you decide the illusion is real, it means the truth is not real in your mind. And then you have chosen a different advisor, Your ego is now your advisor. Your ego does not love you. Your ego knows only about delay and fear and sacrifice and sabotage. And of course, it'll give you a good thing once in a while so you don't give up completely. It wants you in the game of struggle and challenge and fear. And, so it keeps you in that game. So try to look at your own thoughts throughout the day and make sure that if you're seeing anyone as less than what God created them to be, and I know it's tempting, there's a lot going on out there, but try to bring them into your prayer time, shower them off in your mind, and say, God, I'm going to shower this person off from all my judgments against them, and I'm going to protect them from my judgments against them. And I might feel that my judgments are valid and justified, but God, you're telling me that's not what you created them to be or to do. And you're saying that if I will let you, you'll show me that what I'm looking at is not the truth. Be aware that your thoughts universally can very much block you specifically, right? And your thoughts specifically can block you universally, both ways. It's an all or nothing deal. It doesn't mean we have to be perfect at this. We just have to want to be perfect at this. We want to be consistent. We practice enough so that consistency is our first thought. If I see someone just being really difficult, it might catch my attention and I think, why are they doing that? Like right away, that snap judgment. And then I remember, wait, that serves me not, right? What I need to do is remind myself that God did not create his children to hurt me or deprive me or cut me off. I haven't been cut off on the freeway, and I live in Southern California. And I used to get cut off on a regular basis when I would drive a lot on the freeways. And I have not been cut off in, I don't know, at least a decade. And I drive a lot. When I drive, and I'm not special, it's because I spend time choosing to see every other driver as the holy child of God. I'm not perfect at it, but I practice a lot. And so when I want to get to a next lane and there's a whole stream of traffic, it's like the waters open up. It really is. Like people let me in all the time. They're so gracious. Sometimes it's too much. Like they'll stop traffic trying to and I'm just like, no, go. It's okay. It's okay. But it's really remarkable because it didn't used to be that way. But the more you see and you choose to see and feel a loving world where people get along, where people help each other, where you're in a space that you're in a world that you actually think is great. Try to hold on to that. Ask God how that can be shown to you. Be willing to know it's possible. Whatever problem you face, remind yourself with God, there's always a solution. Do you realize every problem in the world right now, with God, there's a solution. It doesn't matter how big it is or how long it's been going on. Why? Because it's an illusion. Illusions can be solved because they're illusions. Illusions got there by imagining them into existence. He says the one thing you have going for you is you can unimagine it. Like, of course it can be resolved. You put it there, it can be undone. Do you remember in the Gulf of Mexico, there was that platform where the pipe got damaged and the oil was filling the whole Gulf of Mexico? It was a mess and it was going on for like weeks. And it was really an environmental disaster. And they didn't have an answer as far as we knew. We kept checking and watching the news and we were really concerned about it because I just, the whole thought of, and then the ducks and whatever, they're showing up on the shore and they're covered in oil. It's like, everybody's just really worried. And there was just no answer because it was coming out at such a volume. There was no way to cap it. I don't even know what they finally did. But what I know is that my mom and we decided to pray about it. And I'm not saying we did this. I know there was probably people praying all over the world. But one day we prayed about it because it was so hopeless. And we said, God, we need you. We need help. We don't know what to do with this. So will you decide about this? Because we know with you, all things are possible. We think it's impossible, but you know it's not. And I don't know if it was the next day or the day after, but all of a sudden the headlines were it was capped. Like, I don't even remember how they did it, but they capped it. And there at the time, there was just no way to get that done. Same thing with the miners that were trapped. We prayed about it. Same thing with the kids that were trapped in the tunnel because of the water. I just remember laying on the couch just going, no, this is not acceptable to me. I mean, I choose again, like, God, your children are not born to be trapped. This is not true. And so you decide about these kids. I place them in your hands. I know that with you, they are safe. And I'm just going to go to sleep tonight and I'm going to know that you are handling this. And I choose peace instead of this for all of these children. And I had gone to sleep hearing the news story that said there's no way to get them out, that already some Navy SEALs had swum in to try to get the kids. And I think one of them died. It was just a huge mess. And then I was praying with my friend Deanna. We were talking on the phone late at night, and she was distraught too about the whole thing. We both have a lot of little kids, and so we prayed about it together. And she called me at 5 in the morning and she said, they're out. She said, well, they're almost out. They're just getting the last ones out right now. And that was from like 10:30 at night, where there was no possible way. I'm sure they were working on things. And, I get that. I'm not saying we did that. God did that, but it was sure fast. And that sure happens a lot. Please pray, but don't tell yourself there's no answer. Don't tell yourself it's too big to solve or it's been going on too long. For God, it's all the same. He said, just try to think that any problem you have, for me, he said, is not much different than finding a lost paper clip on your desk that you misplaced a minute ago. You're searching around to try to find it to grab your papers. He said, for me, it's kind of like that. Like, don't overcomplicate it in your mind. Make sense? All right. Well, let's share a few stories about what you all think is your happy day. What would you do if you woke up tomorrow? Just tomorrow, you can change your mind. But what would you do tomorrow if you woke up and you actually are financially free and you feel good and you have the energy and you're just in the mood to do something fun or move towards something great? Anybody have any thoughts? What would you do? Bring it on. Give me some ideas. Would you plan a trip? Would you hang out with a friend? Would you go to a celebration dinner? What would you do? What do you think, Yvonne?
I would purchase my dream house on the Outer Banks of North Carolina and go down there and never leave.
Okay, tell me briefly what that house looks like. It's just at a minimum.
Um,
So we can see it with you.
okay, well, it's a house in Nag's Head on the beach. You can hear the waves, and that's what I want to wake up to the sound of the waves every morning and go to sleep to them at night. And it's got, I don't know, one or two stories, lots of decks around it, so you can sleep outside. You could have a sleeping porch if you want. It's just a really beautiful, fun beach house. And I don't mind being at a beach where you have all four seasons, summer, winter, fall, etc. I like that.
So, what's your favorite part about living at this house now that you're there?
Waking up and going to sleep to the sound of the
Oh,
waves.
I'm right there with you. So, you'd
Yeah.
probably leave your window just a little open. Can you imagine just kind of opening it up?
It's warm enough outside, I'd never close it.
Never close it. I love it. I love it. So, let's just take a moment and let's see that for Yvonne. We just see you, Yvonne, just snug in your bed and your windows are open or your patio door. And you're hearing that ocean, maybe the moon shining out over the water. And you're just laying there thinking, this is pretty cool. This is a good life. And I thank you, God. This is just everything I imagined. And it came so easily. So we just see that with you. And if you take time to think about that and just be there, you could just use that as your place to go to sleep at night or wake up in the morning. Wake up and imagine what you would do. Get up and throw the curtains back, or maybe you walk out on your deck and you look out and you go, oh, there's dolphins this morning. They're always there. but try to bring that closer to you and just be in gratitude without expectation, just gratitude and just thanking God that, there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Thank you, Yvonne. Awesome. Who's next? Who's got a picture? Come on, think big or little. All right, Patricia.
I will be training with some of the best dancers in the world, but not dancer of my age, but like I'm very much capable of dancing, but
Wow.
I find that because of my age, it's very like people put you in a box, and also with that, I will really like to make very short video like sorry, but like expressing something about the Course in Miracle example, like just and put it in a very short story. And I know I can do this, but again, like and it's very difficult again as a single person, especially a female, because there's not that many male dancer. And on top of this, it can be like if I can find an instructor that is studying the Course in Miracles, that'd be great.
Oh, hey. So one of the things you can do, just like how I made a reservation for our trip, the short story thing, you could actually start just writing it, having fun, just throwing down some ideas. And then for the dancing, you could ask God, like, how can I move towards that? What would that look like? How would I start to, see that in my life? So you might even just get on the internet and just look at different dancing groups and see, just kind of think, if I had the means, I could just jump right in over here. Or you might just spend a little time researching something like that. Or maybe there's a spiritual singles group that you might, I have some pretty good domains saved. Like, what was it? I don't know if it's ACIM singles. I don't know, but I always thought a dating site would be super cool to have people that study these things. But anything you can do to not only just sit and feel it and see it as if it's done, but take a little step towards it, just as if it's coming and you're preparing for it. So that's great. We see you doing that. Do you have a sense of what country that would be in or where that might be? Or is there any texture we could put to it?
Sorry, I'm already I do line dancing like very high level.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's just like it's not my dream is more like the the couple one. It's just I was never able to dance social dance with like couple.
Okay,
So
but you might just research a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to locate it. It means you're looking for it. And then God is really good at helping you find it.
yeah.
So even just researching, where would you go if you did have a great partner and you want to know where to go. So just try to look up things and get a sense of where you would go if you could. It's not up to you to solve this problem. It's up to you to imagine that this problem is already solved. And so if it was, you wouldn't want to waste any time. You'd want to go out with your friend that you met and go do something great, right? So you
Yes,
wouldn't want to have to spend a bunch of time researching then. You want to be ready to go.
I would go to Vienna.
I love that. I want to
Yeah.
go to Vienna too. Thank you, Patricia. Awesome. How about somebody else? Let's hear those happy days.
I'll throw something out there. I have been meditating for an extended period of time every morning for a little while now, and writing regularly in the morning. And a big part of this process, because every morning I'm like, what kind of day do I want to have? And it helps me frame my day and whatnot. And I practice seeing things and other people a certain way. And as that happens, I feel like sometimes I laugh because I feel like, oh man, am I cursing the people around me? Because then they start having problems. Like, sorry about that. something I realized today, I think this is very timely when I was writing, was that structurally, I've had a very difficult time identifying what I want. And I think you know this about me. I am very, very ADHD. Like my brain goes in like a billion different places.
That's okay.
It
Really, the focus is happy. So,
and again, like I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's kind of a superpower. It's just that not understanding that until you're older, like when people try to shove you into a box your whole life and it makes you pretty miserable. It's taken me a long time to get to like, oh, that's just how my brain works. Now, how do I use that to my advantage instead of trying to kind of force myself out of it? How do I kind of lean into it? But a big part of that is I don't stick with anything for any long period of time. I master things very quickly. If someone teaches me, I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do this super, super fast. And I'll do it to a point where I'm like, oh, that's good enough. Next thing.
right. You are very capable.
So,
I give you that. I'm a witness to your capability. So what would you do if you were just free? Would you
so
just change it
something
up
that,
every day or?
well, and that's part of it. Something that has been kind of like burgeoning over the past like little bit here for like a year has been like, I want a place that's like, I want land and I want tiny houses on the land. And I want like part of that land to be like for people who are like digital nomads, maybe where they can like park there without having to worry, but also a place where like my friends can live when we're older. But I want there to be like a central meeting place, and I kind of have an idea of what I want my house to look like. And it's not very big. I don't like big houses, and I want things to look a certain, like I have a very specific aesthetic, as you know, if you can tell by looking around me. But I also want to like make things, but I want this greenhouse and I know what the greenhouse looks like, and I have an art studio. So like it's all these different disparate things that I've just tried for a long time to kind of sit back and go, take yourself out of the equation of how this happens and just sit with, I want this to happen. And what dawned on me very specifically today, or the reason I'm going to come back around all this, is this has stuck with me for a while, which is rare for me to have something stay with me for a while. And trust me when I say, like, this is just scratching the surface of what it is in my mind. But this is the first time in my life that I've ever kind of sat down and allowed myself to think about what I might want. And I really realized my double prong. It was a pin today, like got pulled out, like the life of too much weight, not enough money. And it's like I get stuck in between. So I'm caught in between there. Like every single thing on my list is going to be hampered by one of those two things. And so I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting, because as I realized, I wasn't allowed to have those things when I was growing up. Right. My parents actually said things to me like, when I'd say, oh, I wish I could, yada, yada, yada. My parents would say things like, wish in one hand, spit in the other, and see which one's fuller.
Nice.
Yeah. So you're taught very quickly at a very young age, don't dream. And then you're a creative person who's stuck in like a school sitting behind a desk. And so like it's taken a lot of time, as you know, to kind of unravel that. Now I'm just kind of like, what is the feeling I want to have? And focusing on that. I don't know what it is. I just know that I'm identifying how I want to feel instead of trapped, powerless, right? So like, that's a long way around of saying, like, sometimes for me, trying to put a picture of what I think I want on it is almost more problematic.
And that's okay. And you could even in prayer, you could say, will you decide for me? Tell me how to have an experience that's just far better than this. What would you choose for me? Again, that's a workaround, because your ego is trying to tell you that because you can't put, words or the right feeling around it, that you can't get there. Then ask your higher consciousness to show you what you would love.
I think what it is that everything I want to do, I feel like has been hampered by those two things. So like I'm in the middle. So it's like the only thing I could want is for those two things to be gone. Does that make sense?
It does, but what we could do is let go of that condition and
Right.
just say, okay, my mind says that those two things hold me back, one or the other or both, but I'm willing to consider that nothing holds me back. I'm willing to be wrong about that. He says
Right.
there's two turning points. One is that you have to be willing to be wrong about that. We can do that, and also to give up any opposition to being helped. Those are the two turning points, and I think you're right there with both of those, just willing to be wrong about that and to understand that for God to show you something else, he doesn't need you to weigh less or have more money. He's going to show you something based on what you haven't seen and don't understand. So we don't want to put any conditions on
Right.
that. Yeah, I see that with you. Just your art studio. I see a beautiful garden, greenhouse. I see you being creative constantly and just having the burdens lifted so that you can create freely. You're such a creator. I don't know what you'll do when you're unbridled, like without trying to figure out how to make money to pay this or do that, or like imagine what Patty can do if she doesn't have to think about all those things. So that makes me happy to think about it. Anything else you would add to that happy vision that we could see for you?
I guess like clarity is where I've kind of been focusing. Like I started yesterday saying like, okay, today I have $1,000 cash and I don't have any bills. What would I spend it on? That's just like fun because I don't do that a lot.
Good. What'd you come up with?
Oh, I have a whole list. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like part of it was like, oh, like weekend getaway, and part of it was like stuff for my Jeep. And then I spent $1,000, but I spent it several times, and it just kept going. I just kept going because I thought like it's a good exercise for me to do those things, because I think a lot of the time I sit back and go, that's unnecessary, or it's bad for the
Right.
environment,
The other
or like
voice
I don't
kicks
need to
in.
do.
That's why I think it's good to do it just a few minutes at a time till you get to the feeling, some kind of feeling of relief or relaxation or just a little glow of a smile. Like that would be
Right. So what I
nice.
want to do is I want something that I can like contribute and make. Like I have a lot of things where I think I want to be able to create things that what it does is it incorporates maybe, I don't know, like trash or garbage or something, so that it's repurposed, like repurposing and reusing and things that are sustainable. And there's a lot of that element to it. Yeah, it's just, there's a lot. So it's constantly going a million miles an hour in here. And so I've got
Well,
like
that's part of your
lists.
gift. So that it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we thank you, God, for this happy vision that we hold with Patty, just seeing her free to create, free to enjoy herself, free to be free. And she doesn't quite know what that would look like or feel like, but you do. So we thank you for showing her what that would look like and feel like. And my happy vision is to see Patty one day say to me, I know what that feels like now. I want to see that. I see you just beaming, going, okay, all right, this is good. This is good.
One more thing that I want to actually kind of,
Sure.
my dog passed away a few weeks ago. It's okay. Well, I mean, yes, it's okay. I recognize. So there's like a little bit of a grief
Yeah,
that's
sure.
happening. After that, I did something that I haven't ever done, and I've kind of been resistant to for like a very long time, is took a very low dose of a antidepressant. And my sister, who I live with, said something like, noticed a difference in you. And I was like, yeah. So I don't know. I guess like for the first time in my life, maybe like this is not a bad thing for me. Because for the first time in my life, I felt like I have felt for the past few weeks like I haven't had a weight sitting on my back.
Oh, that's
And I've
nice.
been in like
That's nice.
a much better mood consistently.
Wow. Maybe it just has to, sometimes things show us what we're trying to hit as a target.
Yes,
And then
that's
you'll
what
be
I
able to
said.
replicate that yourself.
Exactly. And that's what I said to her. I said, like, I don't know what this feels like because this is a foreign feeling to me.
I think it's an answer, and it will lead you to the next answer. And you are the creative one. And I think you'll replicate it. Terry, years and years ago, like 30 years ago, he was diagnosed with ADHD, like everybody was at the time, but he would forget things and things that were important to him. And he just felt awful, and people would judge him for it and he would feel terrible. He read a book called Driven to Distraction, and it described him. And he finally realized, oh, this is a thing. I'm not just this horrible shell of a forgetful person, like this is a thing. And he was diagnosed to take some Ritalin just for a little bit. And he said it was the first time his mind was organized and he could literally slow it down and even line up his pencils in size order. Like he just never was able to do that before.
Yeah.
And he said he took it for like 3 months and then he was able to replicate it. And he didn't
And
have
that's
to
what
do it
a big
anymore.
part of it is because it's a completely unfamiliar.
It's just showing you,
for me
right?
to be able to step back because I looked at my sister and I said, I now have to say, like, who am I if I'm a happy person? Because I don't know what that is. So
I like it. I like the sound of it.
I have to, you realize you get a whole new personality,
Yeah.
which means like all of your relationship dynamics change.
I hold out for what in the heck are you going to create as a happy person? Because
Right?
this girl, I'll tell you, she can sing, she can act, she can direct, she can draw, she can paint, she can sculpt, she can make anything out of anything. She's like a walking creative being. And that's on a bad day. Right. So wait till we see what happens when she turns up her afterburners and whew, to the moon. Patty, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So let's just see it as the tool that it is for now. But I believe because you're so creative and able to look at something and make it into what you'd like it to be, I bet you'll be able to replicate that now that you know what you're shooting for. Because as long as I've known you, and it's kind of a long time, was it 2004 maybe? I think Patty was in my first hypnotherapy class. Were you, Patty?
At the Ayers Hotel?
Yeah, at the Ayers Hotel in Anaheim Hills, California. I think it was maybe 2004 or something.
Remember?
But anyway, we go way back, and as long as I've known you, that you're a happy person, and I mean you bring light into the room wherever you go. But it's been an elusive concept because you're a director. I think you like concrete understandings, clarity, and you haven't been able to wrap your hand around it exactly. And I think this is a really great thing. And you're just being shown how to get there. And I love practical steps,
Me too. I need practical.
I have no judgment
be.
on that. Like, I think it's great. And I bet you'll be able to replicate it before long and just throw those out, Oh, thank you, Patty. The 3 people that I have identified for tithing here tonight, it's all based on Holy Spirit, like where they're sitting in my screen here. But it's Cindy with a Y, Denise, and Stephanie, unless we have 2 of any of those. But Cindy with a Y, Denise, and Stephanie. If you would be so kind as to send me a little note at robin@robinduncan.com, just tell me how you'd like me to tithe, whether it's a Venmo or bank checks take longer, just so you know. Like if you just want me to send it to an address, it can be 8 to 10 days. It's just a little gift. What's the best way to get you something like that? So Venmo or Zelle or I guess just a bank check. So one of those 3. But Cindy, Denise, and Stephanie, would you do that for me? I'd like to give away a hard copy of the Miracles in Prayer book to the first person that raises their hand. Rhonda, you're on. Okay. And, one of the reasons, Rhonda, if you can just send me your mailing address to that email, that would be great. And just write prayer book in there. The reason I say that is because when we're not used to receiving so easily and we have to, there you go. It's going to look just like that, Rhonda. So I'm going to mail that to you. When we're not used to receiving, even when somebody says they're going to do something or something good is coming, we don't always believe it, or we don't even hear it because it's like another language, So I really love it. That's why I say first one to raise your hand, because I want you to get to that place like, yes, pick me. I want to receive. I'm ready to receive. I'm here. Let's do this, Really try to amp up your willingness to receive. God created you worthy. It's not about your resume or what you've done right this week. It's just you're worthy because God gave you everything, and he's trying to show you that. But one of the ways to realize that is to show up and say, yes, I'll be that person. That's okay. Pick me, right? And I found that the more that I did that, the more great things happen. You know, I have a niece that just has a knack for all this. She like signs up for contests all the time. Do you know she has already had 2 all expense paid trips to Hawaii for her whole family in 5-star hotels? They're like $15,000 trips or like a 4 or 5 day trip, and they pay the whole thing. And she just loves to like sign up for stuff, and she just receives like all the time. She wins things all the time. I want you to see yourself as a winner. You know, wherever you go, you're a winner. You're God's holy, precious, perfect child, and you're a winner. The other thing I'd like to leave you with tonight is that in terms of your happy day and what you'd like to experience, you might take a tablet, you know, and you might write down for yourself, why do I believe I don't have this yet? You know, money's probably an easy one for a lot of our creations, but maybe it's something else. Like, you know, for Yvonne, if, you know, why don't I have this beach house yet? Well, you might think, well, it's my income or my level of income, or, you know, for some people, it might be their credit score. They just think, oh, there's no way my credit score would even allow me to have a place like that. Or maybe nobody in my family has a place like that. Try to do bullet points of what's in the way. And I'll be asking next time about that as well. We want to talk about what's in the way, and let's clear some of those things together. But if you have even one thing on your list as to why you do not have this happy experience, you get to be right. You're the dreamer. So if you decide, well, I don't have it because that other person took my resources, I don't have it because I don't have enough time to look for it, I don't have it because I'm not worthy, I don't have it because I made too many mistakes, I didn't save enough, I didn't do enough, I didn't invest enough. We want to look at that list, be honest with the list, dump out as much as you can think of. Like, why do I think I don't have this? You know, next time I'm calling it, who took my money? So it's really about that. Like, why do I think I don't have my resources? And we have to identify where those grievances are. It might be towards yourself. You just think you screwed up too much. It might be towards another person that you feel wronged you or took from you or didn't help you, you know, or, you know, whatever it is. It might be the economy. You know, there's ego has 1,000 reasons why you should not have enough and why you should be without. So try to think of those things. That makes for a more lively conversation when we talk about it next time. But think of your happy day. The more you think about it, the more you're going to have to pass through the fog of your own mind, which is about these beliefs. And if you notice, oh, that's why I think I don't have this, and it surprises you, let's say, write that down. Your ego will want you to forget. It doesn't want you to remember anything useful. So write that down, and then let's bring it and let's talk about some of those things, throw it into a pile, and then we can do some release work around these perceived barriers or areas in the past where we feel that we've been wronged, right? And we'll make it right. Sound good? Say goodbye to everybody. Love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
Robin.
Have a
Thank
great,
you.
great
Bye.
night.
Goodbye,
Have a
everybody.
great weekend,
Yes,
everybody.
yes.
Bye.
3-day
Thank
weekend,
you.
everybody. Yes, okay.